Hello, it's me, and I recently just received this. I got this more out of curiosity just to see if I would like it. I really enjoyed the crazy 3x3 Plus series. This seemed something similar to that. This is the Limcube 1.0. So it's kind of a confusing number scheme. They don't use the planetary scheme, but basically you see on the outside you've got a what looks like a 3x3, but in the middle, and I don't know how well you can see this even with the light on it, you've got this middle 3x3 here. So this is a Limcube dual 3x3 because you've got an outside 3x3 and an inside 3x3 with its own share of corners and edges, and you've got the main center here. So how does this fit in with things? Well, it's almost reminiscent of the real 5x5 in terms of just looking at a center portion where you're seeing hidden internal components revealed. What this is that the middle portion here turns along with the side. What 1.0 means is that one of these centers don't turn. In this case it's the white. So if I turn this center actually isn't moving. The way that I can show that is I'll move the green one here. If I make it turn, you see that this green maintains its position. So as you can see, this doesn't turn. However, if I do the same thing on this side, you see it does turn. So in that, it's a lot like the circle cubes, the crazy 3x3 series. Now in this case, there's only one side that doesn't turn. And in my case, it's the white side. I don't know if it's the same with all of the 1.0s, but there you have it. So what I'm going to do is, I just got this. I haven't really completely worked it out, but I'm going to do another situation where I show how I go through the process of solving. Now something to notice right away is that there seems to be a correlation between the inner edge pieces and the outer edge pieces. And I think what I may want to do is I may want to solve this by reducing one to the other. You notice as I turn this red one is not changing. So that's interesting. I didn't realize that until just now. But you know how this white one doesn't turn? Turns out these guys don't turn either. So when I turn this red doesn't change. So this entire side here, including these inner workings, the inner edges here, don't change. However, up here, you can see that they do. The green is changing, the yellow. Okay, so what am I going to do? Well, I can visualize a situation where all of these are fixed, or none of them are fixed. If that's the case, then you can probably just solve it like a 3x3. The fact that just one of them is fixed, that means that it leads to a lot of issues with scrambling. So why don't I just go ahead and scramble it? There's a lot of trepidation in a first scramble. You're not quite sure, am I going to be able to get it back? Am I going to be able to figure it out? So I haven't gotten the other ones in the series yet. To be honest with you, looking at it, it's kind of difficult to see on the inside. It's a little distracting to have to try to solve a puzzle having a flashlight in hand. So I'm just going to see if I have a good time with this puzzle and show you the motions of it as well. So again, this is the 1.0. So let's see how this works. Let's see how we can get through this. And as I'm scrambling it, I can see that the white center here, that retains its position no matter what centers are here on this side and on the edges over here, whereas all others have the centers turning with it. Okay, so pretty good scramble, you think? Okay, so right at the outset, it appears to me that if I wanted to do this by reduction, I'm going to use the white side to sort of wheel things in. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to reduce it from any other side. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the edges and reduce all the edges first. I'm going to move edges up to here, reduce them, and then move them down to these other layers kind of out of the way. So here's, for example, a green. I'm going to look at the inner edges, a green and a yellow. So let's find a green and yellow and just pop that in. So green and yellow, right over here. So here's a green and yellow, but it's upside down compared to what I want to do, so I'm just going to pop it up. And now as I turn this, you can see the inner layer is not turning, so the green and the yellow are lined up. I'm just going to take this and pop it down to here. Now I could move it all the way down here, but I'm going to put it here first. Next, here's a white and a green. So let's find a white and green right over here. Once again, it's upside down. So let's just move this right side up, move the white one in. So white and green, done. So what I'm going to do is pop this one down as well. If I move it down from here, this will end up on the bottom. So why don't I just pop that out of the way and move this down. Okay, how about blue and white? Here's a blue and white. Once again, it's upside down. So I'm going to move it like so, here and here, move it in, and bang. I like to move it down, but I want to move this out of the way. This one is in and this one is in. So I'm just going to move this up like so to get it out of the way here, move it down, and bring it here. Now, as you can see, I'm trying to move them in this layer as much as possible because that frees up the bottom layer to start moving things into. Might be a little hard to keep track of. Anyway, we've got a orange and white, so I'm going to find an orange and white right over here, orange and white. So orange is on the top, this is on the top, so I'm going to take this, double turn it, and pop it in. Okay, once I've done that, I'm going to take this and move this down. See if I can't move it down to here. Let's take this one out of the way, move it down, and bring this down. So now I should have pretty much all of the middles reduced. And now I can continue the process of reduction. Here's a red and white. Here's a red and white here. So that's going to be easy to do. This is red in the middle here, white in the middle here, splat. So I've got this over here. Now what I'm going to want to do is I'm going to have to start moving things on the bottom. So I'm going to move this down. I'm going to move this down to here. This one, which is reduced, will end up on the bottom. This will end up on the top over here. So the way that I'm going to do this is let's take this, move them up. Now I'm going to move this down. So this is at the side. The one that I moved up, I'm going to move this down as well. I hope that's not too confusing, but I'm just basically populating the middle. Now I'm populating the bottom. Okay, red and blue. I've got a red and blue that's already reduced. This is reduced, and this is reduced. These are all reduced over here too. So I want to move this down to the layer here. This one is on the bottom, so let me take this, bump it out of the way. I'm going to take this, move it to the bottom. Now I'm going to bump this out of the way to move this in place. Because now I can take this one, which is reduced. This is also reduced. I can move this to the bottom and this over here. It's really a process of reducing it here and put it here or put it down here. So orange and yellow right over here. Orange is going to be on the top, so I'm going to move this up like this and move this into place. So I've got orange and yellow in. Now I want to move it down to, well, probably the bottom this time. This one is not reduced, so this moves down. So this is reduced, this is reduced, this is reduced, and this is not. So how about orange and blue? Orange and blue is right here, but this is upside down, so I've got to turn this right side up. Now, taking stock of things, I'm going to look to see how many things have been reduced. This is reduced on the bottom, this is reduced on the bottom, this is reduced, and this is reduced. So all these bottom ones are reduced. How about the sides here? This here is reduced, this here is reduced, this is reduced. Is it? Yeah, it's kind of hard to tell red from orange. And this is reduced. So this one is not. Any here that already is or can be reduced? Well, let's see. Here's a blue and orange, blue and orange. If I move this over here, I now have this one reduced. So now I'm in a situation where I can move this to here. This will come to the bottom. This will come up here. This non-reduced one will come up to here. So kersplat. So very quickly I've been able to reduce all of these in the middle, reduce these at the bottom in terms of the edges, and now I just have these guys to do. Now this should be pretty easy. What I'm going to use is just last layer algorithms to put these into place. So let's see what has to happen. We want to orient the outer edges to meet the orientation of the inner edges. So this inner one is a blue and orange and blue. Here's an orange and blue over here. You can see it's misoriented. It's rotated wrong. So I've got to get this flipped. Now, I suspect that if I do the flipping algorithm, the orientation algorithm, which is FRU, I will not change the orientation of the inners, but I will of the outers. So this has to flip. Here's a green and orange. Green and orange, this is upside down, so this has to flip. Here's a yellow and, was that red? Yeah. and the yellow's on the top, so this has to flip, which means this has to flip. So all of these have to flip. So I'm just going to go ahead and do F, R, U, R, I, U, I, F, I. Now, according to the law of cubes, 2 should have flipped, which means that I have 2 left. This and this is now reduced, so this is flipped correctly. Green and red, this is flipped correctly. This yellow and blue has to go here, this is flipped wrong, and this is flipped wrong. So I've got, everything is in place, but these 2 are flipped wrong. So I'll just flip it back. I'm going to put 1 to the left and 1 to the right. Instead of F, R, U, R, I, U, I, F, I, I'm going to do a little alternative so that I can skip the whole line, go right from L to everything, and that's going to be F, U, R, U, I, R, I, F, I. Now, I'm not getting into details with that because this is still beginner's method. I'm using only 3x3 algorithms. But the concept to understand with getting the reduction of the edges when you get in the last layer, these algorithms, the flipping algorithms, will not flip these guys, but it will flip these. Now that I have that, what I want to do is I want to, now that I've oriented it, I want to permute these to where they're lined up with the proper inner center. So there should be one or all that's already oriented according to the law of cubes. Well, it's this one. This is orange in here, and this is green in here, so this is oriented correctly. This is yellow and this is red, so this is oriented correctly. This is not and this is not, but this is where it needs to be, this is where it needs to be. This and this basically need to swap. So how's that going to work? Well, the way that this is going to work is I'm going to treat this as though it was just like the top cross, where I have 2 that are oriented correctly, say by the proper center. But instead of orienting with a center, they're orienting with the proper inner edges. So if you have a situation where 2 are in and 2 are out, hold 1 to the left, 1 to the right, and just do your SUNY algorithm. So hold 1 to the right and 1 to the back, and just do the SUNY algorithm. And what that'll do is that should get things into place. So it's going to be R, U, R, I, U, R, to U, R, I. And then once you have that, you do one more U move. That one more U move, place this and this. You can see these 2 greens are correct. This orange one is correct. This red one is correct. Orange and blue, yellow and red. Now, basically what I did is I treated these here, all of these here, the way I would have treated a center. Because in many ways, these are centers. I simply oriented these to the centers, not this center, but these guys here, the inner edges and corners. So it was a matter of orienting these using the rotation algorithm that doesn't affect these. Then I used the SUNY in order to match these together. So if one was in, I did the SUNY until until they were next to each other like this, moved 1 to the right, 1 to the back, did the SUNY again, then moved a U, and then I was able to coordinate it. So we're good. So far, so good. We've got ourselves reduced in terms of the edges. So what about the corners? Well, the corners also are going to be simple. I'm still going to be using my white side as my base side here. What I'm going to do is I suspect that I can put the corners in by using sliding U techniques to get it in. Now I'm anticipating, once I get all these reduced, doing a layer by layer solve using the white one, because I want to put the white one in. That way I can move these guys and not worry about changing my reduction. But if I move the white layer, I'm going to change my reduction. So because of that, I want to make sure that the white ones are oriented correctly. So, or whichever side you have that is the non-moving center. So here is a white, what is that, a red? I assume red and green. So where's a white, red, and green? It's right here. So I'm going to move this here. I'd like to slide this into this slot. This is red on the top, this is red over here. So I'm going to hold it here so that when I move it up, it's going to match the red that's on the top. Now notice when I moved it up, it's going to move this out of the way temporarily, but a sliding U technique will move this back. So the way that works is take it from the left, slide it up from the left, or move it up from the left rather, slide the U to the right, move it up on the right. Slide the U back to the left, move it back from the left, slide it back on the right, move it back down from the right, and then slide the U back. At the end of the day, notice it did not change any of these edges, and now I've got the red, white, and green lined up. So we're doing pretty well. Let's go ahead and do another one. Now, I could move this down if you want. I don't know if it's completely necessary. We'll keep it here for now. But I really want to make sure that I'm orienting the corners, the white corners. So where's another white that I can do? Here's another white here. Here's a white, green, and orange. White, green, and orange. So here's a white, green, and orange. On top is green. Here's green over here, so slide it in. Move it from the left, slide the to the right, move it up on the right. Slide it back to the left, down on the left, back to the right, down on the right, slide it back. And lo and behold, this is now in. And did I mess this guy up? And no, this guy's still the same. So I'm not going to mess anything up on the top when I do it this way. Any other whites on the top here? If not, I'm actually going to borrow. So here's a white one here. I'm going to move this up because the side that's moving, that's going to be the important one to make sure we're oriented correctly. So this is white, orange, and blue. White, orange, and blue. Here's a white, orange, and blue. The orange is on the top. Here's the orange here. Go ahead and slide it in. So move it up on the right, slide the U to the left. Up on the left, slide U back to the right, down on the right, slide it to the left, down on the left, and slide it back. So this is in. So I've got this white side in, this white corner in. Again, I'm reducing the corner. These corners are going to be reduced with this, this, and this. Think of these pieces as the same piece. So these components are the same corner, and they're being reduced with this. I don't know if I made that clear before. I hope I did. But in any case, this, and this, these are the same piece correlating with this corner here. Where's my last corner that has white in it? Right over here. I'm going to take this, and I want to make sure that I move it up, keeping all of my whites up here. So where's my other white? It's right over here. So I'm just going to move this up like so. Okay, what this one is this one is a white, red, and blue, right over here. I see the blues on top. I'm going to slide the U back into here. So up on the right, slide it to the left, up on the left. Slide it to the right, down on the right, slide it to the left, down on the left, curse splat. Okay, so all of my corners here are reduced. So what you're going to see is everything here on the top and the side here, these are all reduced, all these corners. So all of these corners are in the right place. They've just got to be reduced as well. So the way that I'm going to do that is my reduced corners here, I'm going to take all these corners, move them to the bottom, and my remaining corners I've got to move to the top. So my white corners are now protected on the bottom. So now I've got to move these guys in. Now in this case, it's not as important to me if they're oriented correctly, they just have to be in the right place. So these three areas have to be correlated with the right corner over here. So I'm going to look for if any one of these are in place. This is orange, blue, and yellow. That's this. So this guy belongs with this guy belongs with this. So it looks like none of them are really in. If none of them are in, I'm simply going to do a corner rotating algorithm, a corner permuting algorithm, like I do with the beginner's method. Now these center ones should not move. They're going to stay fixed. These guys are going to swap around, and I'm going to keep doing that until I get these corners in with this, this, and this. So it's going to be U-R, U-I-L-I, U-R-I, U-I-L. So now I take stock and I take a look. This one didn't change, so I'm not even going to look at that one. Now this will go here, this will go here, and this will go here. So this is a red, blue, and yellow. As you can see, this is red, blue, and yellow. So this is correct. So I'm going to hold it over here, and I'm going to keep moving these around until they're in the correct spaces with these corners, with the inner corners. So outer to inner. Now that this one is reduced, either they're all going to be reduced or one or none. So I went from none to one. So U-R, U-I-L-I, U-R-I, U-I-L. It's really the same form as the sliding U technique. So orange, blue, yellow, orange, blue, yellow. If this is in and this is in, I don't even have to look. I know these guys are in. But just for the sake of argument, green, yellow, orange, green, yellow, orange. So these are now all in the right place. They're just not oriented correctly. I don't need to get them in as of yet, so I'm going to do that as the last step. All the edges are in. They're oriented and they're reduced. All the white corners are oriented and reduced as well. The other corners are reduced, but they're not oriented, but that's okay. So my next step is we'll do a layer by layer solve. Take your bandage centers, the one that doesn't move, and that's the side you're going to solve first. So here's a white. Now be careful, you don't want to do this move. You don't want to do any moves of your bandaged area because you're going to mess things up. So I'm going to take this, move it down here, swing this to the proper center, move it up. This white, I'm just basically getting the cross, swing this up over here, and now I'm going to keep going. I want to move this. This is already aligned with the right center, so kersplat. This, and this, these are all in. Going for the other white, which is this. Let me move this to the bottom, line this up to the red, and bang. So I've got my cross. Again, nothing should be messed up. Now I'm going to get my white one in. The reason why I want to make sure that the white ones are oriented correctly is I just wanted to eliminate them as anything that I had to worry about. So this corner comes over here, as you can see by these centers. So I wheel it in the usual way. It's not going to mess anything up. As long as I don't move this side, all of my reductions will hold. Okay, just going to get my corners in here as well. This guy belongs here. Turn. This is just RIDIRD to bring them in. Here's the red, green, and white, which belongs up here. So we're good here. One more. Okay, so what you can see is my center whites are all done. These are reduced. These are fine within the cross, so we're good. Turn it upside down and we just get the middle layer, same algorithm as beginner's method. This comes down to here, UI, LI, UL, UF, UI, FI. This pops into here and you can see that we're slowly solving the center areas here right with that. This pops to here. So this is the easy part. This comes down to here. My suspicion is that this is probably the simplest of the dual 3x3s, which is okay, something to warm yourself up with. And now this goes down to here. Okay, so middle layer is done, and as you can maybe see, I don't know if the lighting is good enough, you can see that all of these center edges are in as well. So now we have the dilemma of the last layer, and don't sweat it. Our edges are already reduced. They're going to stay that way. What I'm going to do is I'm going to orient this. The orientation algorithms will orient for the edges, the central edges, at the same time as the outer edges. So I've got my L formation here, so F, U, R, U, I, R, I, F, I. So this rotated these correctly and these correctly. Now, here's the deal with this. Here's my suspicion in terms of solving this. I can't just solve it the way I would solve any last layer, or just using any algorithms. Certain algorithms will affect the outer corners and the inner corners. Certain ones will only affect the outer corners, but not the inner corners. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this step and I'm going to start to rotate these guys so that they're oriented with these inner edges as well. And that's going to be easy. That's just going to be doing RIDIRDs with this. Now when I do RIDIRD, I'm rotating this until it matches the corners here. I'm not doing it until they match the edges. So I'm not going to rotate this until all the yellows are up. I'm only going to do this until I get these properly oriented here. This one happens to be oriented correct. Green, blue, and yellow. So what I'm going to do is I guess I'll start here and do RIDIRD until this red matches the red up top over here. It'll cause disruption over here, but that's okay parity will be conserved. I'm going to go all the way around here until each and every one of them are correlating with the inner corner rather. So that's Ri, so red is going to have to be up. Ri, Di, R, D, Ri, Di, R, D. Ri, Di, R, D, Ri, Di, R, D. And my suspicion was correct. The inner corner did not change, but this one did. So red correlates with red, yellow correlates with yellow, blue correlates with blue. We continue to hold it here, then we just move the next one in place. Now the next one in place, these centers follow these corners, so this whole thing will follow that. Keep doing it until this yellow one is up. So Ri, Di, R, D, Ri, Di, R, D. Ri, Di, R, D, Ri, Di, R, D. So here's the orange, yellow, and green. Now I move this into place, and I got to do this until the blue one's up. Ri, Di, R, D, Ri, Di, R, D. Turn, turn, and turn. Okay, now all of these should have been returned back to its normal state. So now we have a situation where we finally have everything is oriented. So the reduction is now complete. I just saved it until this step in order to do that. So here's what we have to do now. We need to organize it to where all the corners are in and rotated correctly, and these edges will undergo edge swaps. Because if I try to do a corner swap, what's going to happen is you're going to disrupt things. You're going to put pieces from the white up to here, white corners up to here, and yellow or whichever colors you have here down to here. Yellow ones down here, white ones up here. So I can't do a corner swap. I know that to be the case because I'm going to be doing movements like this. But I can do edge swaps because with edge swaps I don't have to move the bottom. So corner swaps, to swap these, if I do 2R, U, 2R, UI, 2R, then I've got to do a UI and then a D. That's going to do a fatal turn over here. However, edge swaps don't do that. So I have to permute these and do it in such a way to where it's not going to use any of these guys. So how am I going to get these back up? Well, the first thing that I'm going to do is I have to make sure that all the corners are going to be lined up. So I'm going to be doing corner rotation algorithms. RIDI-RD did not move these guys, but the corner rotation, the corner permutation algorithms will. That's the UR, UI, LI, URI, UIL. So what's going to happen is if this were rotated like this, blue would be here. So I need the other yellow and blue one to be right next to it over here. It's over here. So I need the yellow and blue here, this yellow and blue here, and then the proper red one here, and then the proper orange one here, so that I have all the corners lined up. And you just have to do some strategy to plan that. Well, to get this blue one here, the algorithm will move this to here, and this to here. So if I do that twice, it'll go here, and then it'll go here. So is that going to be useful to me? Well, let's check it out. Let's take this, move it to here. So it's going to be UR, UI, LI, URI, UIL. Okay, one more. We'll take this and move it to here. UR, UI, LI, URI, UIL. Okay, do we like this? Well, if this were to rotate, the blue would be here. If this were to rotate, this blue would be here. So the blue corners will be lined up. Red will be here, but this won't be lined up. So that's not really going to work because I need to get this red over here. So if you're in a situation where these two will line up, but these guys won't line up with these two. So in other words, this red is over here. It'll be lined up, unfortunately, with the green. So that's going to be the wrong corner. So if that's the case, what I'm going to do is I want to keep these guys still in conjunction with each other. They just have to coordinate with these two corners. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move it over here so that the two that are in conjunction with each other, that I know will be aligned, are going to be in the back. And then if I do that algorithm again, this will stay steady. These both will basically shift over here and still be aligned with each other, but this will come over to here. So if you can imagine this, if this were rotated, this green will be over here. This is going to end up over here, where the green will line up over here. This orange, which will be here, will then line up with this orange, which will be over here. So basically, long story short, if you know that you've got two corners that are aligned, put them behind you, put them in the back, and do that corner permutation algorithm one more time. U-R, U-I-L-I, U-R-I, U-I-L. So what you're going to find, once these get rotated correctly, this is going to be lined up with this, because this orange is going to flip over to here. This blue is here to line up with this blue, and this red to line up with this. So now it's a matter of how do I get things rotated? Well, the way that I'm going to get things rotated is to do SUNY, anti-SUNY, to do clockwise and counterclockwise rotations. And notice I still have things reduced in here, because that algorithm didn't change that. So what I'm going to do is, it really doesn't matter. Go ahead and do a SUNY, anti-SUNY, and what that'll do is that'll rotate these in conjunction with each other. So I'm going to keep doing that until these two line up, until these two are rotated correctly, then hold it here until these two are lined up correctly. So hold it over here. It doesn't matter. I can do it here. I can do it here. I'm just going to keep doing it until this one has another one that's rotated correctly, that has the yellow one up. So that's R-U, R-I-U, R-2-U, R-I. Then come over to the left side and do the anti-version. L-I-U-I, L-U-I, L-I-2-U-L. So you can see these two are now lined up, and these two are lined up over here. Then turn it over here so that now you can rotate these guys. R-U, R-I-U, R-2-U, R-I. Turn, 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 and turn. Okay, we're not there yet, so we do it again. Turn, 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 and turn. Okay, so we did it. All these are now rotated up. The corners are in conjunction with each other. I'm going to move the corners to their proper place. I didn't have to do any corner swaps, which would have messed this up. And now all I have to do is edge swaps to get things back. So I'm going to swap these two. That's going to be 2RU, 2RU, 2R, 2U, 2R, 2U, 2RU, 2RUI, 2R. It created misplacement here, but that's fine. There is no parity problems with this because we never reduced anything out of its parity. Now we're going to swap these two, which will swap this back. 2RU, 2RU, 2R, 2U, 2R, 2U, 2RU, 2R, UI, 2R. So these are now all lined up. Move them back, and done. And just to show it, you can see all the centers are in, and all of these outer centers are, or the outer 3x3 and the inner 3x3 are all solved. So, okay, that was pretty fun. Much of my theories as to how it was going to work turned out to work pretty well. So you can look back to see which algorithms did what, but the whole key was to reduce it using this side, and then make sure that you have all of your white corners properly oriented, turn it upside down, do those little tricks to get this oriented, and there you have it. Now this is probably the simplest version of the dual 3x3. This is the 1.0 where just one side was out. I'm sure that as you put two sides out, or two of different sides, you're going to have to come up with different algorithms. Whether I want to continue with this series, we'll see. The movement of the puzzle is very good. It moves pretty smoothly. I have to admit, it is a little inconvenient for me to have to stare into the centers like this. I think maybe it could have been made a little bit more clear as to what was on the inside and not shadowed so much in darkness. But aside from that, it's a pretty entertaining puzzle, and I'll decide if I want to go further with this series and do more solves like that. Anyway, thanks for watching.